guys. I am in Lodi, Wisconsin. Thanks for bearing with me, and hope you enjoyed the ride here. Thanks to my great dear old friend. He suggested a path for this morning's route, and so you guys all watched it by now. And it was a really nice ride through, just through the Wisconsin dairy and farmland and some, I don't know. As a Midwesterner who's living on the coast now, it's an aesthetic and an environment that I miss, and I had a really good time riding through it. So I'm grateful to him for that. So without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to my friend Marty, who I played with in my absolute very first band. And Marty, was it your absolute very first band also?
It was, yep.
And you were in college at the time at NDSU.
Yep.
And my brother and I were just high schoolers still. We were so young and green, but we knew that we wanted to get in front of an audience at some point and play some music. And we were just looking for guys that had the same desire. And Marty wanted to play music too. And you still want to play music.
Yeah, that's right. A couple things happened that brought us together. One was I had a class that I had to take that wasn't offered my senior year. So I had to come back the next year and take it in the winter of 1989. And so had I graduated, we wouldn't have been able to play.
Oh, wow.
Because we met in late spring of 1988.
Yeah.
And I had gotten a fellowship to do lab work in the biochemistry lab at NDSU.
Okay.
And so I stayed, instead of going home for the summer, I stayed up there. And Nancy, I knew Ann and her sister Nancy, I think you were dating at the time.
I was.
And
Ted ended up dating Jill.
Oh,
the
yeah.
other sister shortly after that.
So Ann one day said, hey, my sister's boyfriend is looking to start a band up, he and his brother. And so that's when I went over to your house.
Wow.
And we met up. And then I think I had been playing guitar for maybe 6 months. So
Wow.
I was terrible. And but we played a show in my basement to some of those other biochem kids and a few friends that were still around that summer. But it was like 3 or 4 songs, and I remember Kent being there.
Before the police came.
Right.
Shut it down.
No, this was just a small little gathering.
Oh.
But Kent was playing guitar with us, and Ted.
Yeah.
Kent might have played bass, and you on the drums. And then I sang Light My Fire was the first song we ever did together.
Wow.
I'll never forget that.
Oh, I did forget that.
And you guys made me take my shirt off and try and act all broody, and it was... I'm sure hilarious if you'd known what I looked like back then. But
we had a lot of great ideas back then.
We did. Legends in our own mind.
Yeah.
But and so then we started practicing 6 days a week, pretty much.
We did.
That summer of '88. Yeah.
We did a woodshed for. I mean, I don't know what the next gig was. I know we played in your basement more than once.
Played in the basement.
But the police cut
we
it
did.
short that one.
And then so fall of '89, we played a gig or two in my basement. And I remember playing guitar and I had my head down or something, and I was playing a solo, and I looked up and there was a cop standing right in front of me. And he said, "Are you nuts?"
No,
and,
I'm just a musician.
And so we played dumb, and they were cool about it and let us shut down. But I remember that we played a Stones song. What was it?
Squeeze Box?
Emotional Rescue.
Yes.
Squeeze Box.
Dun, dun.
We did a sort of a Rush La Villa Strangiato
It was a
medley with
medley.
something else.
It was
The
there any-
Trees.
Maybe.
I think, yeah, the End of the Trees, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, we put something together.
And then
We got to a point where like, okay, we can't play any more of this before it's going to
Yeah.
fall apart. So let's
Right.
just stick another Rush song in
we
there.
weren't good enough to play the good parts, but you were.
I don't think we
You
were
could
good
do
enough
it,
to
but
play the parts we played.
yeah. And
Me, anyways.
Now I have a tape. I have an audio tape of that show, that first gig in the basement.
Wow.
I'll have to dig it out. But so then we played that church basement thing.
Messiah Lutheran Church.
Yeah.
And I remember we went back and forth a lot about whether or not we should perform Eric Clapton's Cocaine given the venue.
Yeah.
And we did play it.
Yeah, and I'm sure no one cared. But
Nobody cared.
I remember we did that song by Strawberry Alarm Clock, right? Innocence and Peppermints or something like that. Or I can't remember what it was. No, it was Love to Change the World. That was the one, right?
Yes, and that was by... It's not Strawberry Alarm Clock, is it? That's...
Oh, maybe not. It might be a different band.
Love to Change.
Anyway, I know that if you want to look up the date of that gig, it was the day that Roy Orbison died. So we could actually Google up when that show was.
Did we say anything?
We did,
time?
yeah.
I'm sure he appreciated. I'm sure his family appreciated the tribute.
We tried to learn Pretty Woman at your house in the afternoon, but decided it was not going to happen. So we abandoned that plan. But yeah, it was.
And we did Desire by U2.
Yep, that was when we had Wayne as the singer, and Travis was the bass player.
One Finger Wonder Travis.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cat Scratch Fever.
Oh.
Yep. And we did Devil Inside. That was our opener. That was what we started with. Yep.
What's our opener?
Yeah.
I have the VHS of that gig.
Oh, you do?
We were opening for the Vagrants,
okay,
whose bass player was Jeff,
yep,
who I ended up playing for a decade or more with,
yep,
and we're dear friends.
Well, I'd love to see that video.
Yeah, I need to digitize it and bring it into the 21st century. But so okay, and you went off to a career in engineering, and what did you do?
Well, I worked in biochemistry for a while, but then I went to grad school for fisheries and geomorphology, and I got into river restoration design. So I design rivers is what I do now for restoration, which is a really great business to be in right now. Lots of work. So
I imagine it's not going to go away.
No.
Just because my viewers have seen it already, on this path I went past Lake Mead and Lake Powell, and I've already had comments on Instagram. Everybody just notices how low the water is.
Right.
In both of those reservoirs.
Yeah.
And there's clearly a real problem out
there. Yeah. Well, it's climate change, right? Global warming is resulting in more drought conditions and reduced snowpack in the Rockies, and so that the upshot of that is no water in the Colorado River Basin and lots of other basins too. So, Owens River, California, boy. So there are lots of environmental issues out there right now, and it's nice to be in a field where I can try and counteract some of that.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure it's. I'm sure getting up in the morning to go into work isn't like
No, it's.
God, not another day.
It's pretty fun, actually.
I bet.
It's really, really fun. I was in Idaho Panhandle a couple weeks ago, Toronto for a week doing construction there, so I get to see some pretty neat places.
Yeah, I bet. Before we shift away from our history in Fargo, we should probably talk about this instrument you have with. I haven't seen this particular guitar since those days.
31 years, yeah. Right? 30
I
years.
was so thrilled to see it again. You bought this at Marty's Music, which no longer exists, in Moorhead, which is across the Red River from Fargo.
Yep.
And clearly you've put some miles on it over the years.
Yeah. I don't play it as much anymore. I play a different guitar now, and I actually more of a bass player now, but this guy, so I bought this in 1987. I still have the canceled check from the bank in my sort of scrapbook.
Wow.
So I could tell you what day I bought it. I paid $650 for it at the time, which was an insane amount of money for a guitar.
Yeah.
But I had used my summer Valley Fair money to buy it. And it's an original New Jersey Kramer, so this is American-made Kramer. I think Eddie Van Halen uses the neck off of this guitar in a Gibson body as a sort of Franken guitar.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great. And then I took the pickguard off, and I remember seeing an Exit Stage Left video where Alex Lifeson had a mirror pickguard on there. And I of course had to have that. So I talked to the folks at Marguerite's, and they ordered one up for me. And I had to custom cut it a little bit. I changed out the pickups on this years ago. It actually needs a little electronics work, but I still play it occasionally.
It's so cool that it's still with you. And
it's got you probably want to tell me this, or me to tell the story of the cracked head, but
please do tell that story.
So I have, there's a crack here in the head, and well, I had seen Steve Vai in a video. The MTV days were young then, but he had twirled the guitar around his shoulders and came back around the other side. So I was practicing that because I was going to do it in a show, and I threw it up, and it escaped and went straight at the wall, and it hit the wall right here, and just cracked it right off, split right down there. And I panicked and freaked out, but talked to Marguerite's, and they just said, glue it on there, of course. And I was young and dumb, but works fine. So it was a scary moment. But then that's what got me into the strap locks. I remember Kenny said, if you're going to do that kind of stuff, you need to have strap locks on there.
That's great.
So, yeah, poor thing. But she weathered it. So, yep. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So, okay, musically, after you left Fargo, I know you played in, I've seen some video, I know you played in Minneapolis, and you were with a band called Totem.
Well, I played in the band called the Sled Dogs in Minneapolis in the 90s.
Okay.
Early 90s, right?
Okay.
Kind of a grunge period. We were sort of a metal band trying to make it in a grunge city, pretty much, as every city was back then. But and then I got married, went to grad school, so I checked out of music for a while. I started to play the bass, though, while I was in grad school. And then when we moved to Green Bay, I played in a band called Entropy there, played bass in that band. And then I played, then when I got to Madison, I started Totem with Rob and Philip. And we've been together ever since. We don't play a lot now. We play maybe one show or two shows a year at the most.
Okay.
And so we play one or two shows a year. And I really like playing with those guys, though. And we don't have any expectations anymore. And, you know, at first we did, but we have much more fun now, where we can go in as old guys and all the youngsters are there, and we are maybe the warm-up band, or maybe we like to play second or third slot if we can, because the other bands will play, and then we'll get up there and just like blow their doors off, you know.
You
and
know what you're doing.
Because they're so good, these guys. And I've been playing bass now for 20 years, so we play a couple of Rush covers just to kind of get everybody psyched up, but it's all originals, you know. Yeah. So. And I also do well, there's a couple of things. So this sort of leads into the food stock thing.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So here we are now on your place, and you've been inviting me to this for years, and I'm so sorry to say no so many times, and I'm happy to be here finally.
Yeah, and so the idea for this, it's just a party, right, where we kind of play for ourselves, and sometimes our friends come to listen. But the idea for this thing came out of two different things. So my friend Jeremy, who was here, used to have a party with another guy named Huck, and they would roast a pig, and everybody would come there, and some musicians would just get up and kind of play impromptu stuff. Yeah. And then I had also at around 2007, I started to do this Rush TabCon thing. Yeah. And TabCon is it's a little mini convention that we have in Milwaukee. We gather at the St. Francis High School auditorium, and we play Rush covers for 2 days. So it's about 20 guys, and a couple of gals occasionally, but really just us, and we're playing for ourselves. a few people come. But
And now
yeah.
you have musicians who, from that, who
yeah.
are now in Rush tribute bands that tour and play this music around the world. I'm hearing. I heard
Yeah.
Costa Rica,
Yeah.
anyways. And
Yeah.
those guys are here, and so.
Yeah, so Sean, who is the lead singer for the Rush Tribute Project, so he would always request what songs do we want to do at TabCon, and so we'd send him a list, and then he would try and put this crazy spreadsheet together for 18 hours worth of music, right?
Wow.
And I thought, well, we could do that here for a day, and just maybe play whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we started it. And Jeremy and Huck stopped doing their party. So I said, well, we'll do the party here, and we'll add this sort of TabCon approach to it. And so that's how it started. So we play maybe 30 songs, over the course of 4 or 5 hours. And nobody practices, you practice on your own sometimes.
Sure.
And then you just show up here and play.
My viewers know how hard I've been practicing on the road for this.
Yeah, it's all up here, right? Mental.
I'm very grateful to be a drummer in cases like this.
Yeah.
So, for the love of the music.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really.
Well, it's like a home for retired rock stars, basically.
Yeah.
So all these guys have played in bands.
Yeah.
And some of them are singer-songwriters, others are metalheads,
Yeah.
country, whatever. And so we were all sitting around talking about, a lot of us don't play a lot of gigs anymore, but we should play something together, and so this is a way for us just to get together and play.
Well, thanks for inviting me, because
Yeah.
I fit right in there. you
Yeah,
know?
it's a nice spectrum of people that I played with over the years.
Yeah.
You 30 years, Jonathan, who's not coming today, is 25 years, Rob and Philip going on 20 years soon. Some of these guys, maybe 10 years I've known them. So it's fun.
It's like
Yeah.
a family
Yeah.
reunion of sorts in some regards. That's great, man. What am I not asking you that I should ask you about anything that's
Boy,
interesting?
I don't know. I mean, we could talk for hours, I suppose.
Yeah. At some point, we gotta turn these cameras off and make music, and then turn
Yeah.
the cameras on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I wish it wasn't raining, I guess, but maybe
Sure.
it'll stop later.
You know.
We've had good luck here it's the 10th year we've done this. TabCon has been going for 20 years. This will be 21 years this year.
So,
And this is 10 years old.
somebody who's watching, I've got people that watch us all over the world, but many of them in the United States. If they wanted to come to TabCon, can the public come to that and just watch?
Public can come and watch, sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
How do they find out where it is?
There's
Just
a
Google
website.
TabCon and,
There is, Rush.
TabCon.
I think it's Midwest Rush TabCon. So,
Okay.
yeah. We have a gal comes from Florida every year to watch.
Okay.
And, they're pretty hardcore Rush fans
That's
that
amazing,
come
yeah.
to watch, but yeah.
Well, that's the thing about Rush fans, right? If you're a Rush fan, you're all in. And
Yeah.
well, like when people get the bug, you either get it or you don't, and you resonate with it or you don't. And
There's a guy here that you'll want to meet, my cousin Jimmy, and so he comes every other year or so. And so Jimmy and I, when we were 13 or whatever, 12, starting to listen to Kiss, right? So everything was Kiss. Like we were solid, all in on Kiss, and that was like 76 to 79ish. And then I remember.
Interesting who their opening band was around that
Yeah,
same time.
right. And so.
Coincidentally.
Yeah, and I remember being in his basement playing pool. We used to play a lot of pool in his basement, and he had a record player down there. And he had, when I came over that particular weekend, he had bought 2112. And I'm like, what's this? And so he put this record on, and he hadn't listened to it yet either. And so we were shooting pool, and I remember both of us stopping and just like, what is this? When Temple of Syrinx came on and he starts singing,
Yeah.
at first we're like, yeah, this is kind of cool. And then all of a sudden, oh, wow,
Yeah.
what is this? This is out of this world, And we could not believe our ears, right? And then we're like, we got to get some more of this stuff. So we listened to it a few times, which is what you did back then.
Right.
And looking at the album cover and stuff, and they
Yeah.
suck you in with the album covers, right?
They do.
And then we went and bought, not Moving Pictures, but Permanent Waves had just come out.
Yeah. Nice.
And so we bought that, and we're like, this is Kiss who? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was nothing but Rush after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took me till college before I actually listened to anything else, really.
I was all in for years, and on my paper route, which those that have read my book know about the paper route, but I had a Sony Walkman in the whole time as I delivered the Fargo Forum, and it was Rush for a lot of it. It was also Genesis and also the Police, and
Right.
tended to be prog rock.
Yeah.
Yes was part of my paper
Triumph, I was into them in
Were
early
ya?
college
route. I
days.
never
Yeah.
got into Triumph all
Really?
that much. Oddly, but and Led Zeppelin, of course. And,
I think it was all part of my odyssey to marry a Canadian woman, because
yeah, right.
I kept when I was in Fargo, I took curling as a class for Phi Ed.
Okay.
I'm a hockey player.
Yeah.
I took curling, didn't know what it was, loved it, played in Fargo for a couple of years, and then I seemed to like.
FM curling club up on
Yeah.
campus. Yeah.
I liked Heart, Rush,
Yeah.
Triumph, and I just sort of gravitated. It was natural that I should marry a Canadian woman,
Yeah.
so
That's right.
couldn't have been any other way.
Well, and Neil for me ended up being, like a mentor you never meet. Just through living his life, and
Right.
here I am out on the road doing a 10,000-mile motorcycle journey. There's no, it's not a coincidence that
No.
that's happening, I mean,
Well,
and
yeah.
it still feels like my idea, but
We had mentioned,
Neil.
we were talking about Joseph Campbell earlier, and
yeah.
so my father taught mythology for like 30 years, right? And so
Okay.
Joseph Campbell was a big part of that, Hero with
Yeah.
1,000 Faces, and
the myth
And,
the hero's journey.
I kind of knew it in the background. It was always there in the back of my life, but didn't know anything about it really. And then when I went to college, I was kind of struggling with, going to church. What is this? And
Yep.
and then I started to read some Joseph Campbell stuff, and a lot of what Neil Peart wrote about resonated, right? And
Yeah.
it mirrored, I think, what he was saying in a lot of things. So, like the pairs of opposites, the hero's journey, and all these kind of archetypal images.
Yeah. Red Barchetta comes to mind. That whole
Yeah,
story.
yeah, and it really helped me to figure out where I was philosophically, maybe, and metaphysically,
Yeah.
and I was always a big, Carl Sagan fan.
Yeah.
Wanted to be an astrophysicist, but couldn't do the math, right? and so Rush really resonated with a kid like me, like from the burbs, that was kind of nerdy science kid. And then you got the Joseph Campbell stuff, you got the mythology, reading books like Tolkien. At the time I was into Lord of the Rings.
Okay, yeah.
And other fiction books too. And every once in a while you'd read a fiction book and you'd come across something that Neil Peart had written about, right? And because he'd read everything.
Right.
And so it was really fun during that time, still is now, but to think about writing music, having a philosophy of life, and reading books and listening to music, and have it all sort of swirling around in your brain, and coalescing. It was pretty fun.
Oh,
I remember.
man.
Yeah.
Now, because my viewers are motorcyclists and we've been talking about literature, they're going to want me to ask, have you read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance?
Absolutely, yep. I read Zen when I was a senior in college. So
Nice.
I had already read it by the time I met you.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I love that book. It's one of my
Yeah.
top 10s for
Did you
sure.
see on my bike, I got Phaedrus was here.
Oh, you do?
on
Nice.
the bike,
I love that, and I really grooved with Neil's travel books as well. I loved reading those.
And that was like a whole nother, when he got into that,
Yeah.
it was like, what more can you do for me,
I
sir?
know.
You know?
And his book that he wrote after when he went on his sort of journey to try and find himself after his family
Yeah.
tragedies.
Yeah.
I have given that book to people who have had a loss,
Sure.
and
Sure.
a couple of my friends, and they said it really helped them.
Yeah.
And I can see how that would be the case.
Yeah.
But
I thought of doing
yeah,
the same thing, and I haven't had the opportunity.
just do it. Just get them a hardcover and send it to them and say, "This, I know this might help you."
Yeah.
But, anyway, yeah. How can you say thank you, right? So, I don't know how you can except to maybe do this sort of thing and just keep playing their music. You know.
Yeah, I mean, if any of you guys are watching and you don't know about Neil Peart or you don't know about Rush, it's kind of hard to be on planet Earth at this point and not at
Yeah.
least have heard about them. They are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame after all, but they still, for whatever reason, tend to be either the most loved band in the room or the most hated band in the room. And those of us that love him or love them don't care that you hate them. That's how it goes.
But what a fantastic time if you're young or old, doesn't matter if you've not heard of them or listened to them,
Yeah.
to be able to dive into that catalog.
Yeah.
And I mean, that would be really fun kind of discovery.
You know, my daughter is a guitar player and is in the music conservatory at this art school.
Nice.
And she's into all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But with classic rock, I really can't get her attention very well. But with Rush, never a problem.
Really?
Please play 2112 again, Dad.
Yeah.
And it's like, sorry, this drive isn't long enough for the whole thing, and why would we listen to just part of it? You know, and let's commit to a longer drive. And we've driven like around our house to finish it.
Right.
You know, let it play out.
Well, I was fortunate enough to be able to take my son to the last show in 2015 that we went to together, but
Yeah.
and then he's seen a couple of Iron Maiden tours as well, and just loves that. He went to the Foo Fighters last week.
Tula loves the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
of course, the Foo Fighters love Rush.
It's a great story too.
So they've,
yeah. There's a way of carrying yourself as a Canadian that's different from an American, right?
Yeah.
And the way that those guys approach fame and how they handled it, I think, and just the way that they're just nice Canadian boys, right?
Yeah.
And they're really nice and polite, and they, I think, set an example.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt.
They set an example, just the way that they carried themselves through their career, and I think that Dave Grohl and those guys learn from that, right? And they emulate that. So absolutely.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. It is. That's Axel F.
It's Axel F. from Beverly Hills.
One of the
Cop.
first songs I think I ever played as a musician, I think, was Axel F.
So cool.
I had a keyboard in that NDSU dorm room.
And I have a 45 of the Miami Vice theme from Harold Faltermeyer.
Oh wow.
Still have the 45.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, my turntable doesn't work anymore. I got to get a new one. But anywho,
I was pulling out my albums the other day and out dropped my 45 of Hey Hey What Can I Do by Led Zeppelin.
wow.
I thought I'd lost it forever, but
Oh wow.
it was in there. Do you remember the Odyssey that we went on going to the Page and Plant concert?
Yeah, with the belt coming off your
The belt
alternator.
coming
Was it
off.
a water pump or both? I
It
don't
was
know.
it was fan belt, I think,
Yeah.
broke, and we were like, what are we gonna
Barnesville,
do?
we pick up a
It
belt.
was in Rothsay,
Oh, was
and
it? Okay.
and a guy pulls over, and it's my friend Eric Rude, who lives in Rothsay.
Right.
I'm like, how could you? Who's a total mechanic, right? And like, how could we be any luckier than this?
Yeah.
We would have never made it to that show.
And,
And,
dude, so people didn't catch it. It was Jimmy Page,
Yep.
Robert Plant,
1988.
Jason Bonham on drums,
Yep.
right? And was David Coverdale singing?
Could have been, yeah. I'd
Who
have
was
to
the
look that
singer?
up. I'd have to look that up. No, no.
Oh, yeah, no,
Plants
sorry,
would have
Plant's
sang, yeah.
there,
Plant sang. I don't know who was on bass, but
but John Paul Jones was not. Yeah.
when I saw them later, the guitar player singer for The Cure was playing rhythm guitar for them. It was kind of cool. They actually played one of their Cure songs, but
Cool.
anyway, yeah. So we drove down to Minneapolis from Fargo. Fan belt broke in Rothsay, Minnesota, and a friend of mine who lives there water skis with us at my friend's cabin. just happened to be driving by and recognized my car. He pulls over and took us to his dad's barn where they had fan belts all over the
Yeah,
inside.
we just picked one close.
Just picked a couple off the thing, put them on, off we went.
Yeah, that's
Amazing.
how we did stuff back then.
And there was a guy,
Just get it done. Keep
I
going.
remember standing next to Ted, and there was a guy in front of us. He just turned around and said, "Paige is my life, man." And Ted just looked at me like, what a loser. Oh my God. Just laughed, but
Oh, I wanted to ask you, when we went to your parents' place, we drove in an old International truck. Do you
Yes.
still have that in the family?
no, I wish. I love that thing.
That was awesome.
They have a international parade every year, and there's always one or two of those red and white trucks with the big steering wheel, and you'd have to turn it like 1,000 times with your pinky. Like I could do
Yeah.
it with my pinky.
Yeah.
There's so
It
much
had a
play in
little
it.
Saginaw
I got
power
pulled
steering
over.
wheel.
Yeah, I got pulled over by a cop because it was so hard to keep that thing straight on the road.
Yeah.
Because it had the tie rods or whatever were loose, but I don't know.
Did you think you were drinking, or was it just,
Yeah.
it's just unsafe for the road?
Yeah,
Okay,
he did. So,
that's funny.
but I remember driving that thing into Shakopee one time, and there was a guy. I was in the right lane, and a guy was in the left lane, and he pulled into my lane right before a stop sign, and I turned real fast up onto the curb, fishtail a little bit, and then there was a lady standing there, and I actually somehow did like a drift around this lady.
Wow.
And I came to a stop, and this guy comes running up, this older guy, and he said, "You all right, son?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "That was a fine piece of driving right there." Like, thanks.
Thanks.
Watched a lot of
Hold on, I'm
Magnum
gonna try it
PI.
again.
Yeah. Dukes of Hazzard, thank you. Andrew, hey, I'm doing an interview. We're done now, but he does a travel YouTube channel for motorcycling.
Oh, geez.
So he's doing a
My
little
friend
interview.
Would love
Yeah.
to talk to you, I'm sure. I've got a good friend who's really into cycling, goes down south to like Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
Does the Tail of the Dragon down there and stuff? Or?
That sounds like something he'd be interested in, yes.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Tail of the
Totally.
Dragon. Do any of the great trails have lame names, or are they all that badass? Like
No,
Tail
they're
of the
all
Dragon?
really cool like that. Yeah.
Nice. Riding the Tail of the Dragon. I don't know if you and I are cut out for something like that, Marty, but Dan was talking to me about that base cabinet in the basement. Does that need to come up?
Yeah, it does. And
Is it heavy?
yeah, I'll get up here and we can.
Yeah, we're done.
That's pretty heavy.
Well,
Let's
Dan
get
and I
back
can
to
do it.
work.
I just
Okay.
checking.
Yeah, base cab. Yep. And the thing that's on top of it too.
So,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah.
I